Hey everyone, welcome back to Smart Architectural Programming. If you're diving into Java with our Introduction to Java book, you're in the right place because this is one of the accompanying videos. If you're following along on our playlist, again, doesn't matter, but the book gives you more in-depth explanations and exercises to further your understanding. So today we're going to explore a fascinating but often overlooked part of Java, instance and static blocks. What are they? What should you use? When you should use them, and how are they different? Don't worry, we'll break it down in step by step with clear examples to better your understanding about the topic in a much more concise and clear manner. So without further ado, let's get started about understanding instance and static blocks in Java. Before anything, like with everything, we need to first understand what are instance blocks and what are static blocks. And let's start with instance blocks. So an instance block is a block of code inside a class that runs every time an object of that class is created. Again, let me repeat that. Instance block is a block of code inside a class that runs every time an object of that class is created. Think of it like a special helper that sets up an object before the constructor is even called. So as you can see, this piece of code here, let me get my marker here and use red color, can't use blue on a blue environment. So you see this code here, right? This code is a class. When I basically turn this class, and if you have seen previous videos on class and objects, you'll understand what I'm talking about here, but I'm not going to go too deep into the class and objects methodology in this video because we've already covered it. So when we talk about classes, when they are instantiated or run, they create objects, right? And every time an object is created, an instance block automatically executes when the object is created. It doesn't wait for you to manually run methods of that object, but it automatically runs that logic as soon as the object from that class has been created. Instance block is instantly executed when you create a new object of example you see above, and then it's followed by the constructor being called, basically. So the instance block comes first and then the constructor. Use case is very simple here. Instance blocks are great when you want to initialize code for every object but don't want to repeat code across constructors. That's the important thing here. They are called in every time an object of that class is created, but instance block is created first and then the constructor for the object is called. And this is essential because instance blocks make sure that you can initialize a code for every object but don't want to repeat code across constructors. So it's done for all objects that come out of that class. So what are static blocks? Static blocks are executed only once when the class is first loaded into the memory by JVM. So without calling or anything, when a class is loaded, static blocks are automatically run by JVM and fixed in the memory. If you create multiple objects of the example class here, as you can see, we have a static block here. That is basically what we're talking about. So every time if you create multiple objects of the example class, the static block still runs just once before anything else because it runs as soon as the JVM is called. Static blocks are perfect for initializing static variables or running configuration code that only needs to happen once for your software to work. So with that understanding, let's understand what's the difference between static and instance blocks. So number one, what happens when it runs? When do the static or instance block runs? Instance block run every time an object is created before the constructor, and static block only runs when the class is loaded on and the JVM sees the class. What are they associated with? Instance blocks are associated with objects. Static blocks are associated with the class itself. What is the most common use for instance blocks? They shared code across constructors, while static blocks do static variable initialization or run configuration files. What can they access? So instance block can access instance variables, while static blocks can access only static variables or methods. You need to understand, in summation, you only use instance blocks for object specific setup and use static blocks for class wide setup. So what is a common example that you could use here? We can combine static and instance blocks to basically come up with a simple understanding of them. As you can see the code here, the output will be executed in this order, as you can follow the red arrow here. So static block is executed first. That's the first thing that gets executed. Then the instance block gets executed, right? Here, that's point number 2. And then the constructor gets executed. That's point number 3. And then instance block gets executed, and then the constructor is executed. So key takeaway from this is that the block ran once before any object was created. Static block runs once before any object is created, and the instance block and the constructor ran each time we created a new object. So what have we covered in this video? Let's recap. Static blocks are run once when the class is loaded. Use them for static setups. Instance blocks are run every time you create a new object. Use them for common constructor logic. They both help keep your code organized and dry. Don't repeat yourself. Principle. This lesson ties directly into the chapter 9 of our book in Introduction to Java, where we break down the class loading and object lifecycle even further. Be sure to check that out for deeper context and understanding for that you might want to develop for this topic. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, give us a like, subscribe for more Java content, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next lesson. Drop your questions in the comments, especially if you're unsure when to use block versus constructor. Rather, instance versus static. We love helping you write smarter code. See you the next time on Smart Architectural Programming.